Good morning. I love those two words, yes and thank you. Turn to somebody and just simply say, yes and thank you. Yes and thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes, yes. See, those words carry, can you feel, there's a vibration to a sacred yes. Can't you feel it when you say yes? There's a stirring and a movement in the spirit. And when you say thank you, and especially when it's directed toward the divine or toward God, there is an automatic stirring in your spirit. And it says that when we say thank you, that there's also an automatic increase of whatever is praised. Whatever is praised by spiritual law increases. So when we say yes and we say thank you God for my good, the good starts stirring. The good gets amplified in your being, and it begins to, it has to express itself. When you say thank you, God, that goodness that is of God then begins to stir and to find its way into expression and manifestation in your life and affairs. And then all you do is say, yes. Can I have some more, please? Yes. So remember, we're entering in soon into this season of gratitude and thanksgiving, but it's not just the season. It should be as often as possible because we are truth students and we want to be able to use the truth that we know to set us free. Now, last week, the week before last, because last week our NGU spoke, but the week before last, was it the week before last? Yes. The week before last, time is just very fluid, right? I talked about things being in flux, so time is fluid. But I know before the last talk I gave, whether that was last week or this week or whatever, the last talk that I gave, I talked about the need for balance in our lives, and that how sometimes we get stuck. We get stuck between our head and our hearts, and that we get stuck trying to figure out how do we keep ourselves in a place of peace. We might get stuck in trying to be always up or whatever that may look like, but that the truth is we never land in any place permanent. That there isn't any static sense of balance. Balance isn't a static motion, but actually balance has a fluid energy to it, a motion, a movement, right? And so that we should not seek to be static, but seek to be what? In the flow. In the flow so that we might find ourselves up and we find ourselves down. If we're up, we might find ourselves to balance in a little down experience, or in or out, or high or low, or left or right. And that somehow there's movement and then there's resting. So even though the energy of the universe is constantly in motion, there is a pause that happens. So that, one comes up, it's a slight pause, and one goes down. And I talked about that we don't want to get stuck in the pause. We don't want to get stuck in the resting place. That place that feels comfortable, that we have to move. It's like the aerial artist that wants the trapeze artist. If they want to catch the bar that's coming, they got to let go. And there's a point in which they must let go and grab the other piece. And when the pendulum swings up, there's a resting point before it swings back. And so we're learning how to be in motion along with the divine flow of the universe. And so I emphasized not getting stuck. It was like, help, I'm stuck in my head or stuck in my heart. And that we could tell which one. If you're stuck in your head, you need to move into the heart. And if you're stuck in your heart, you need to move into the head so that there's a balance. But I also wanted to make sure that we did not confuse resting or stagnation for resting. Because sometimes we can get stagnant in our life's expression. And if we stay in a place for too long, in a state of mind or in a condition too long, perhaps that we actually might move ourselves towards death or stagnation. But even in death, it's not a final. Remember, I said there's no final landing place. Even death is not a final landing place. It's a pause from life, death, into life, right? And so even with that, there's a constant movement. There's a resting in it. But we don't want to rest in that place of stagnation too long, lest we die before we've had a chance to live. Because life is about growth, it's about change, it's about expansion, it's about evolution, ever unfolding, ever expanding energy. That is what life is. It's an ongoing energy, right? And so that says that wherever we are, that we must move from the place where we are. That was a command that God gave Abraham. He said, Abraham, you got to move from this place out into another place. And Abraham was like, pick up everything and move. Abraham was a little leery. But then he said, look, and when I'm asking you to move from here, I want you to do this. I want you to look westward, northward, southward, and eastward. He said, and everywhere you look, I'm giving you that land. So that was some motivation, right? All right. Where as far as I could see, here and here and here and here, that God is providing my goods. So therefore, Abraham, or Abram at that time, but once he began to move, he became Abraham, which is a symbol for faith. Once he activated his faith, he began to move westward, northward, southward, eastward, and everything was his land that he could possess. But he was in travel, in flow, in flux. So we have to, in life, move from the place where we are, even if it's a good place, even if we like it, because you have to still go higher. Or you can, there is regression, you can go backwards a little bit. But hopefully when you're moving from the place where you are, it is to the next level. It's to the next stage of unfoldment. And that we're moving forward and not what? Backwards. Because you can move backwards. If, it's like the scripture that talks about the guy that Jesus talks about when you got your hand to the plow, you can't look back because all of a sudden if you got your hand on the plow and you start looking back, well, the road's going to take you, you're plowing back this way. Right? We want to continue to move forward. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were really honest, I would have to admit that I kind of like hanging out in the comfort zone. Sometimes I don't always feel like moving. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to move to this level or that. I'm kind of good. I'm good right where I am, Lord. This feels good. Wikipedia has a definition for a comfort zone. It says this, that a comfort zone, it is a psychological state in which things feel familiar to a person, and they are at ease and in control of their environment experiences, and they experience low levels of anxiety and stress. A psychological state in which things feel familiar to a person, and they are at ease and in control of their environment, experiencing low levels of anxiety and stress. Now, we love to feel like we're in control, don't we? Yeah, we like to feel, and especially if feeling in control yields us a little less anxiety, low anxiety and low stress. Yeah, we like that state. Matter of fact, I think I want to camp out in it, right? I want to pitch a tent, and I want to stay in a place where I feel I have control, and I feel I have little or no stress or anxiety. That's what I'm looking for. Well, rest assured, the universe will eventually present us with some life situation, some life event that is going to force us, out of our comfort zone. That right? You don't get to stay there. It will move you out, and sometimes kicking and screaming and trying to hold on, right? And so it's a natural process. Now, when the universe moves us out of our comfort zone, we enter into, there's a company called Wealth Hikes, and they said that there are 4 zones, but when we move out of our comfort zone, we usually enter into these other 3 zones. And when we are feeling very comforted and we're kicked out of that zone, or thrust out, however, we usually, and sometimes even voluntarily when we leave it, but we usually enter into the fear zone. Because in the comfort zone, everything is what? Familiar. It's comfortable because you know it. But in the fear zone, in this zone, we're not quite sure what's going to happen. Even though God told Abraham, look, I'm going to give you everything. Look, he didn't know what he was going to move into and who he was going to meet along the way, right? So sometimes when we're in this out of the comfort zone, we're not sure what's going to happen. Things are not familiar to us any longer. And we might even start making excuses as to why we're not moving ahead, or why we're trying to hold on because of this, that, and the other. We might not have any self-confidence, much self-confidence, or the self-confidence that we had when we were in our comfort zone. Because when you're familiar, you can I know what's going on. I know what I'm doing. But when that's gone, we might have a little less self-confidence because it's a new area, it's a new arena, a new situation. And because of this fear zone, we might get stuck in the zone for a minute. You get stuck in it for a minute, but again, you can't stay in that zone either. You can't live your entire life in a fear zone, because change is going to happen. It's going to come whether you like it or not. So even when you're in the fear zone, eventually you have to move out into the 3rd zone, which is the learning zone. Now, in this zone, this is where you begin, because you finally said, well, I can't just live this way. I got to put my fears aside. Something wakes up. In this zone, here's where we begin to deal with our challenges and problems. They're right here, and eventually you just got to deal with them. So in the learning zone, we begin to deal with them. And through trial and error, try this, we try that, we have error here, success here, up and down. We begin to acquire new skills because you're learning. And so as you begin to learn, you get new skills, you have new understanding, new ways of doing things, right? New ways of being, and you're feeling good now because there's stuff happening. And when you're in this learning mode, eventually as you begin to apply what you're learning or whatever, you move into the 4th zone, which is the growth zone. The growth zone, because here, when we learn, we grow, right? When you have taken in that new knowledge and new awareness, your consciousness expands. You now know more than you've known before, and you grow from where you were, at least in consciousness. But in this place, in this zone, this growth zone, what happens is we've learned, and now we have a greater sense of purpose. We're ready to, take on some new goals. We had new goals set. We've kind of met some of our desires because we've learned, we've mastered the new skills, and now we've met our goals and met our dreams, and we've expanded, we've grown, and we feel good. And we think, this is a good place to really camp out now. Because look, I've done it. I did my bucket list. I've achieved some great things that I wanted to achieve. I met my goals. I'm good. I'm in the growth zone, but I'm good. Now, you know what happens, right? Because it would be ideal to stay in this growth zone. But we remember that the pull of life is always towards what? Evolution. It is always toward evolution, growth, change, transformation, expansion. So even though you're in the growth zone and you've maxed it, you feel really good, you cannot stay there. Because if you get too comfortable in the growth zone, resting on the laurels, resting on your past achievements, resting on how well you have grown and how far you have come, and you let that try to be your guiding point, guess what? The universe. Because now you're out of the growth zone, and what zone are you back into? The comfort zone. And the universe says, yeah, you can pat yourself on the back, and for a little while, you can enjoy, but you can't stay here either. And all of a sudden, you're back out of the comfort zone, you're into the fear zone, which moves you into the learning zone. You learn new things, you start to grow, you love the growth, and you want to stay. Until what? You're in the comfort zone. And the cycle goes on and on. It's powerful. And so we understand how to do it. We should take note of where we might be in any given point in the cycle, especially if you're stuck in the first two zones. Because those are the hardest zones to move out of, the comfort zone and the fear zone. They take a little bit more of conscious effort on your part, right? You gotta, sometimes when you get comfortable, something's gonna poke you. Something has to stimulate you to move from the place where you are, especially if it's a good place. And so those two zones are really hard, and it takes some conscious effort on your part. I've been feeling a little stuck lately myself. And I decided that I was going to sit down and meditate, just listening for some guidance to help me to move out of this feeling of stuckness, or this feeling of conscious stagnation, or this feeling of maybe even emptiness, or I was feeling tired and not inspired and not motivated and maybe down, maybe even burned out a little bit. And I've been in it for a little while. And so I was talking to a good friend who travels to India with me a lot, and so we're on a similar journey. And she was telling me about this meditation technique and process that she was using to help her to access and her inner wisdom, and to be able to hear the inner wisdom of her own soul. And basically, it amounts to focusing on your body awareness, or just being present to your own being, but being in the body. That what you do is you're being conscious of of being in your body. And in this place of being in the body, you just wait. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know about that. But think about it. When, you see, we are spirit, soul, and what? Body. And we give a lot of attention to the spirit, and we give a lot of attention to the mind. Your soul is your mind, your consciousness. We give a lot of attention to the consciousness. But we don't really give a lot of attention to the body as a spiritual tool, as a portal for spirit to move. And so, as I thought about it, when you are focused on the sensations of the body, and you're staying present with the body, what are you not doing? You're not in your head. Thank you. You're not in there, I should think about this, and okay, now I'm going to pray about that. God, let's get this. I want this to come, and I need that to come. And we're out here, because that's where we think we're supposed to be. And we get distracted, and we get off track, and sometimes you find that you're not even meditating. Now you're just, either complaining, enumerating, or getting your laundry list. I need this, all of that. But in this technique, you just become present in your body. And you bring your attention and your awareness to whatever sensations are coming up. If your toe is itching, be present to the toe. If if you have feelings of anxiety in your solar plex, be present. Notice it. Stay with it. Be with it in the body. Just sit. Just listen. Just be open. And just be aware. So I said, okay, I'm going to try this. So I went and did my exercise. I said, I'm going to sit in my meditation chair. And I began to just bring my attention to my body, to be in my body, to be present to myself without any kind of thoughts and what I need and what I wanted, nothing. I was focused on just being present to whatever my body was saying or doing or feeling, right? And after a while, I was just waiting and being present. And after a while, I could actually hear my inner voice. My inner voice began to speak. My higher thoughts came, and it wasn't me thinking thoughts. It was the thoughts just simply began to arise in me, right? And I was guided to see myself and to see my stuckness and to see my areas of stuckness and to see my resistance that I had to doing what was mine to do. And I began to just see all of this and feel all of this. And all of a sudden, a thought arose, and I began to think about the 12 powers. And this thought came into my awareness that my power of will was weak, and that I needed to spend time focusing on this power. And I thought, wow, the power of will. See, but think about it now. Once we get into understanding the power of will, that's what came to me. Your power of will is weak. And I was like, what? And so then I jumped up out of the meditation because it said, go get this book. Go get Fillmore's 12 Powers. Well, I couldn't find Fillmore's 12 Powers, but I was led right in front of me. It was right there. This is how the Spirit works. It was right in front of me was a book called A 12-Power Meditation Exercise by Charles Roth, which is, because Charles Fillmore is dense and thick, and, but the Spirit gave me that book, which is just an exercise on meditating on these 12 powers in the body, right? And so it was right there. I took it out, and I began to read the chapter on understanding and will, because those two things, those two powers go together. And I began to read it, and I remembered, wow, you see, the power of will within you, it's one of your 12 powers. But the power of will within you is a spiritual power that represents our ability to choose. It represents our ability to execute whatever thoughts or insights or desires that we may have. Whatever comes up, it's the ability to execute. It's called the executive power of mind. It is that which pulls us into activity, right? So when your will is active, it will move you, because it takes whatever thought you have and it directs you to fulfill that thought. And I thought, well, this certainly makes sense. If I have, my will must be weak. My power of will is undeveloped or underutilized, and so I'm feeling like I don't feel like I want to do anything. I can't get the energy up, blah, 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 blah. And my own being told me the power of will was weak and that I needed to strengthen that power within me. I needed to give some time and some energy. So it's the activating force that jumpstarts everything else. It jumpstarts whatever other powers that we have. And this whole concept of the 12 powers, Unity is the only metaphysical school that talks about it, has the 12 powers as a thing. And I used to think 12 powers, well, Mr. Fillmore, I don't know. But they are 12 energy centers in the body. He calls them centers of powers. And he also equated them and correlated them to the 12 disciples, meaning that each of these powers, as it relates to a disciple, has a quality and a function that when they are activated together, that all of these powers together help to move you into Christ consciousness. It expands you to the point where you are at your peak and highest spiritual self, your divine self, when you have activated all of these innate qualities of being, these 12 powers that we are gifted with from the divine. And so once I began to look, wow, it's a power in the body. They have, not only is it associated with a disciple, but there's a physical location for the power so that you can meditate on that physical location of where that power is in the body. And so I thought, wow, this is really great because I need to expand. And I said, I wonder what other powers are undeveloped that I'm not using that could actually help me move out of this state of lethargic or just not being motivated, not being whatever inspired, or feeling tired, or having no energy, or I can't complete this. I can't feel like I want to do it. I just can't get going on it. I said, wow. So I meditated on that and began to stimulate that. I said, I know that there are other powers that go along with it. And as I began to dig deeper, there are certain powers that are very active in these of the 12 powers that move us, that move things in us. And so all of a sudden, I said, I've got to figure out what is mine to do. And this is what I want you to be able to do. That if you have a power, you know, so I came up with, for me, what will is what I need to focus on so that I can do what is mine to do, right? It takes will to carry out whatever is yours to do. And each of us has our thing to do, right? The divine is calling each of us to do our particular thing. Your thing and my thing are not the same thing, but you got yours to do as well. And so it is the will that carries out your plans, your dreams, your hopes, your desires, and your thoughts. Because without activating the power of your will, you're going to find yourself stuck. And you're going to be unable to move forward. You won't be able to act or to choose or to stir up this energy or to fulfill your desires and your potential. So I said, there's some other powers. And I thought, well, what else could help keep me moving, to keep me, to activate? I got to start with the will, right, so that I can keep growing and growing. And then all of a sudden I said, well, there's the power of zeal. Power of zeal's in the back of the head. I need some zeal because zeal, that power is what? Zeal is the enthusiasm quality of being. It is the ability for us to be excited, to be motivated, to get, your fill of God, enthusiasm, to be filled with God so that you're ready and wanting to move. So I said, I need some zeal. So I meditated on the zeal, right? And then I thought, well, I need some strength because the power of strength is not about might. As a spiritual quality, the power of strength, which is located in the small of your back, it is the power of endurance. It is the power that gives you the ability to keep on keeping on so that you don't fade away, right? You don't get tired. It's not about this kind of might, but it's kind of about this kind of might. So I said, I need some strength. I need some endurance. I need to keep on keeping on. So I meditated on my strength faculty. And then I said, well, I also need the power of imagination. I need the power of imagination so that when I get these thoughts and these ideas, that I can shape them and mold them and hold my visions and my dreams. So I give color. Imagination helps you to shape your desires and your thoughts. And so that you can actually see it in pictures. Because you know what? We think in what? We think in pictures. See, a thought creates an image for us, a picture, right? And so this concept, most of the time we think in pictures. And so the creative energy to be able to see comes through your imagination. So I said, I need to be able to see what is mine to do. I need to be able to see some new ways of being, some new ways of doing things, some new ways of stirring up this spirit within me. Because if you can see it, you can do what? You can achieve it, right? If you can see it, you can achieve it. Then I thought, well, before I can see it, and that is making the imagination, and before I get that, I got to be able to really perceive it. See, seeing it and perceiving it, perceive it. To perceive it is to pre-see it. The imagination is once I've seen it, I shape it and I mold it and I give it color and I give it some energy, right? But I got to be able to pre-see it, to perceive it. And that is ruled, your perception to be able to see is ruled by the power of faith. And your faith is stuck down in the middle, right in the center. That's where your faith quality is. You got your faith quality, you have your understanding quality, and you have your will up in here. So all this is, you've got your zeal back here. So it's bringing all this stuff to life. The definition, metaphysical definition for faith we say, of course, the one we find in the Bible. Faith is the evidence and shape of things and hope of things, hopeful, all that good stuff. But we're doing metaphysics today. So the metaphysical definition for faith, faith is the power to perceive something linked with the power to shape it, of substance. And to shape substance is imagination. So when your faith and your imagination come together, you can see it and perceive it. You perceive it, and then you color it with imagination, and all that begins to stir up energy within in your being, in your body. And then I thought, well, okay, I need to be able to see. I got to have my imagination going, my understanding going, my willpower going, my strength power going, my zeal power going. What else do I need? And the Spirit said, you need power. So the power of power, which is what power is, one of your powers, that's a 12th power, and it is the power that is resided in the throat. It is your power to speak. The power to name a thing and have it be so as you name, to decree a thing and have it be done as you have decreed it, to speak a thing into being. So not only do I want to see it, but now I want to what? I want to speak it. I want my creative voice to have the power of spirit. So I need to work on that. I need to sharpen that up. I need to open up that power. So when I speak, it's done. When I see it, it's done. When I'm claiming it in faith, it's done. I got the strength to keep on going. I'm tired, keep on moving. All of that. So those are the ones that I claimed for myself because they activate these powers. And so I began to work with them. And it's the power of will that gets all of them going, right? It's the power of will that activates and starts the whole process. The whole process. It starts it, it maintains it, it carries it out, it brings it into manifestation. The will is how you make it do what it do. Right? If you want to make it do what it do, you have to exercise your will. And not being willful, but full of divine will. Full of that energy to carry it out, to make it happen, to make it do what it do. Because what good is having all of these ideas? I got great ideas. What good is having all these ideas if they never get out of your head? Right? What good is it to have all this, a whole bunch of spiritual power and energy, but you never activate them and you never use them? Your spiritual powers. What good is it to have it? What good is it to be given life if you never live? All of these things, right? What good is it to be considered, having all this divine potential, but you never demonstrate it? And for me, I wrote this morning, I said, what good is it to have a book inside of me if I never write it? Right? You've got something in you that you're not attending to, that is yours to do, that is calling you. And you might not have had the will, the desire, the capacity, the motivation, the thoughts. Maybe you're stuck in the fear zone. Maybe you're too comfortable. But Spirit is calling you as it is calling all of us. And if we need help getting off the starting block, if you could just get off the starting block, we would be blessed. We've got to activate the power of will. So let's start there. Start with that activating the power of will and the power of understanding, which is your third eye. If you just stay on your top area here, you're going to have energy. Third eye, understanding. Right here, will. Right here, some faith. Right back here, some zeal. Right back here, some strength and endurance. Right back here, the power to speak. The other qualities of being of love and wisdom and renunciation, most of those are your expansive qualities. But I'm talking right now about the qualities that are going to move us into being. You don't neglect the other ones. You can choose and pick which ones your soul is needing to develop right now. But be in touch. What's happening in you? Where are you? What's your level of understanding and of growth? Because you've come here to be, you've come here to evolve, you've come here to transform, you've come here to be and do whatever God has created and called you to be and do. So here's a practice I want you to engage in, a spiritual practice. I want you to every day to bring some light to the center of your will, okay? Your will and your third eye here, which is your understanding. So spend some time bringing light, stimulating that. And then whatever your particular thing is, bringing light to any area that you're focused on that you feel that you want to do. And you can affirm this. This is the affirmation. The light of understanding enables me to see clearly and to take right action. The light of understanding enables me to see clearly and to take right action. And each day, whatever you feel when you get up, whatever it is that you're being called to do, I want you to think about what you're called to do for that day, and I want you to get up and say, I will. I will. I will, whatever it is. I will do this. I will be this. What is it that's calling you for the day? Activate your power of the will to do it. I will do this. I will be whatever. Will, to be, and to do. That's our task. If you want to bring it into being, sometimes you just have to will it to be so. And so for me, my declaration is I will continue to be grateful and thankful for each of you. That's my will for today, that I will continue to be grateful and thankful for each of you. What will you do? Blessings. Blessings. Blessings.